Hello, welcome to My Little Paintbrush. I am Sarah, and today we get to paint these flowers in a pot. Perfect for spring. I love this one because it's so simple yet beautiful. I hope you enjoy it. Be sure to relax and enjoy the process because we all paint a little bit different. None of us will have the same colors or the same flower shape because that's what makes art so unique and fun. We're all a little bit different. So remember, as you're painting with me, you can pause the video, you can go back, you can go forward. Take your time, paint at your pace, okay? So let's get started. I have a couple of tools I'll be using. I have a large flat, a toothbrush, and a detail brush, and then a number 6 round. You can use what works for you. These are my favorite for today. I also have a jar of water handy and a napkin, and then all of my paint is placed on my plate, just like this. I have separated my white, super important that we do that, and then laid out all my colors so that I can easily get to them. We will be doing a lot of mixing, making different shades with these colors, which is so fun. And remember, your shades may be different from mine, and you can even change it up. Change the color of your flowers, your leaves, and your background, whatever works for you. All right, so first, we do need to start with our toothbrush. We get to warm up with splattering. It's one of my favorite things, and I hope you have fun doing it. There's just one thing you've got to keep in mind when you're splattering with a toothbrush, because you can use a paintbrush as well. If you get it wet and you flick your paintbrush, it works. I like a toothbrush. It just makes it a little more fun, and I like the way it splatters. So I do need to use a lot of water, and I'm going to avoid overfilling my toothbrush with paint. So if you get too much in there, it's just like with toothpaste, it clumps up and it won't splatter. It just gets really thick and goopy and it won't work. So when I am splattering, I will first take my toothbrush, put it in water and shake it out, okay? Make sure it's got a lot of water. Now I'm going to drip this water into my dark blue. See that? I'm dripping it, and I'm really thinning it out. You can see how drippy it is, right? It's super drippy. Okay, very thin, right? And I didn't overload my whole toothbrush. You see that? I'm keeping it very thin and just at the very tip of my brush. Now, when you are getting ready to splatter, it's gonna feel backwards because you want to point your toothbrush or your paintbrush where you want to splatter. Take your thumb and pull it towards you. Okay, so the splatters go towards the page. Now, one thing I would suggest you do if you want to, it depends on your background color, but I have with me here just some paper that I found. You can use anything that works for you. It's even nice sometimes to lay your canvas down on the ground or on the table. And then you can use rags to wrap around the area you want to splatter or want to avoid splattering. But you can see I'm just going to tape down a piece of paper here because mine's standing up. Okay. And I don't necessarily want to get a lot of those blue splatters all over the background of my flowers. If you do, it's okay. You can just paint over it. That's why we do the splattering first. However, to avoid that, I tend to cover as much as I can. So you can see here, I'm going to possibly get some splatters here, and I'm not worried about it. That's okay. Okay, but I'm just going to kind of tape this in place really quick. Do my other side as well. And this is just paper that I found. Just in my art studio, I've also used some of my paint rags and stuff, and I've wrapped around my pot and then just splattered. So you can use whatever you have handy. You can use a napkin as well. Okay, so once you do that, and you feel like you have the area ready, okay, I am not going to paint my pot white. You can if you want to. I love the texture of my canvas, so I didn't paint it. I'm going straight to splattering. All right, if you want to take a minute and paint your pot a certain color, do that right now. Pause the video, come back, do the splattering, okay? So now that I have it all taped and sectioned off, I'm gonna make sure I have my paint ready in the very tip of my brush. You can practice if you want to on a piece of paper like this. You can see how it looks. And then I'll go to my pot where I want to splatter, and I'm gonna try and focus. And you see I'm pointing my toothbrush at the pot, and I'm pulling my thumb towards me. Okay, and I'm gonna try and focus those splatters right there in the center with a little bit going on the edge. Here we go. And you can put as many as you want on there. Keep going until you feel like I like it. That's about as much as I want to do. And you'll get different sizes as you're going for it. Sometimes you'll get big ones, small ones. And I love getting some of the bigger ones on there too. Makes it kind of fun. They stand out a little more. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. I feel like that's about what I want for mine. So then I'm going to take my toothbrush, set it aside, and wipe off my thumb, because now we have a painted thumb. That's okay. To be expected. Okay. And if you feel like that looks good and you're happy with it, then let's go ahead and remove the paper carefully so we don't smear. And look how good. It looks awesome. So you can see I did get some on the edges there, around the outside of my pot, and that's okay. I'm gonna set aside the paper. Oh. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. Okay, set aside the paper. We're gonna let that dry, and let's work on our background color while it's drying. All right, so now let's mix our background. You get to choose whatever you want to do. I'm going to do a really light blue. And one thing with Bohemian art that I love so much is there's usually one color that is mixed with every color that you use on canvas. And today I chose brown. So brown is going to be mixed in every color I use today. And kind of gives it that warmth that I was looking for. So for my background, I'm going to use a lot of white. Okay, so I'm going to move some white here in the center. Be sure to mix a lot because you don't want to try and have to match your color later. And then I'm using a dot of blue at a time. I want to keep this very soft, very light. And I think a better color is, a better way to say this is I like the brown because of the dusty feel it gives everything. I just love anytime I can add a little bit of that to my painting. So now I'm going to add that brown to my blue, and you can see I'm starting very light, and I'm slowly going to add that blue. I wanted to keep that blue pretty light for my background to draw a lot more attention to the flowers and the pot. Okay, so a little bit at a time there. Getting close to what I'm wanting. Okay, now I do want a little more brown in there. So you're just going to keep mixing until you fall in love with that color. And remember, it will look a little bit different on canvas too. It will. So you'll want to do a little bit of a tester, a little trial to see how you like it. I'm starting to like this. A little more white maybe. This background really sets the tone, so you can add yellow as well. Yellow's a really pretty color for that background. All right, but I do like this. You can see how soft it is. Okay, now you can keep mixing until you like it. Just keep adding and taking away until you feel like, yep, I've got the color I like. Now that I have the color I feel like I want for this painting, I'm gonna just start. So I've got to start painting in the background here. Oh, make sure, load my brush up. All right. Okay, so let's just start filling it in, see how we like it on canvas. It may change a little bit on you. So I always start at the bottom because then I can make some adjustments as I go. So far I like it though. I might add a little more white to my blue, lighten it up just slightly. See how I like that better? Really wanted to keep my background a lighter shade. There we go. Paint around our pot, work our way up. Always start with a little water on your brush. Did I mention that? You do want your bristles to be damp. And you can see I'm doing the outside first rather than going right into where my leaves and flowers are. Starting outside and working my way in. And I do love this shade of blue. It's very pretty. I'm going to paint right over where we splattered in our pot. I'm going to get up really close and slightly go over that outline. And you'll notice I try not to pick up my brush as I come around. It gives you a smoother result. There we go. And again, your blue might look different from mine. I think my blue is always a little bit different depending on how much brown, how much blue I put in it. It's always just a little different, and that's okay. That's what makes this so pretty. You get to make those adjustments. Okay. Here we go. Get up close to that pot. Gently going around, but being as close as you can. Now, one thing I love doing is painting the sides of my canvas as well. We call it wrapping our canvas. And we do it so that it doesn't necessarily need a frame or anything. It looks good standing alone. So if you were to display it or anything, it will look so pretty all the way around. So if you would like to do that real quick, go ahead and reach around and paint the sides. I like to make sure mine is more flat and not a lot of texture in my background. It's a flatter look, but you can add that texture if you want to. Have different shades happening in your background. You are the artist and you get to decide what you like best. All right, so now that I have my pot outlined, I'm going to reach up here and start working towards my flowers and leaves. And again, reach up tall, paint the top of your canvas as well. There we go. Just going to start working in towards my leaves, still brushing out my background as I get closer. Go. I love that we have our stems and our outline here for the flowers to give us an idea of where placement's going to be. That leaves a lot of room for us to be creative and make it our own. Super important to us when we're creating that our artists have that freedom. So as you get closer to your leaves and your flowers, okay, start using the toe of your brush. And the toe is this tippy point right here at the very tip. Call it the toe. Okay, and the reason you'll do that is we don't want to go painting over the line that we've put on the canvas for you if you're using our paint kit or if you're using a pattern. We're going to try not to paint over those lines because they are our guide for placement, unless you're going to change it. Okay, so I'm going to use the toe to get up really close but not completely cover them. And the flowers, I'm going to paint down a little bit to give me some freedom to put those petals where I want, but I'm not going to paint over the whole thing. Just makes it easier for later when I'm ready to paint in those flowers. And again, I'm using the toe of my brush. I'm getting really close to the edge of my flower, but I'm not completely painting over the stems and the flower petals, so you can still see them. This takes a minute. It takes a little bit of time. So you don't want to rush it too much. You want to take your time with this. But also remember that the background in between these flowers and the petals and the stems, it's not the star of the show. Everyone's going to look at the flowers and the leaves, right? Not the background so much. So you're okay to not have it perfect. And if you paint over the leaves a little bit, it's totally fine as long as you can see them. That's the goal. You just want to be able to see what you're painting later. So I get close, but I'm not too worried if I accidentally paint over them a little bit. It's all right. There we go. And we'll come down here. Paint around those leaves and all the way down to the pot. Now right along the top. There we go. Going around the leaves, and you can see I'm using the toe of my brush. Don't want to lose anything. And these little clusters are really close. So it takes a minute to get around everything. All the way up and around. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is the area of your painting that really isn't noticed too much because of your flowers and your petals. We're just gonna, and if you miss a spot, you can go back later with a detail brush and fill it in. So if you notice when you're putting in your stems and your flowers that you didn't quite fill in enough, you can go back. We're just getting the majority right now. There we go. And come and do this bottom area underneath these leaves. And again, as long as you can see the outline of everything and you know where things go, you don't have to stress it too much. All right, we are almost there. Come in around here. You might have to mix more paint, and if you do, that's okay. I always try to go lighter when I'm doing the center. I'll add more white to the, if I have to mix more. For this area, I tend to go lighter. For the center, it just draws more attention. I'm going to come down in my flower a little bit on this one. There we go. Get it all? I think we pretty much did. Go right under that one. Go down enough that you can bring up your petals and you can see the background through them. I think I'm pretty good there. Just want to make sure our color fades in okay in the background. So I tend to go back and just double check it. Make sure everything fades okay. We got it pretty good. Okay. Take my big brush here, fade it all in. Make sure my color fades into the background of my painting and I don't have any thick clumps of paint. So you can take a big brush or your brush that you're using and just quickly brush over and make sure everything works okay. fade into your leaves and your flowers as much as you want. Just keep in mind, you can go back. You know, it's easy to forget that. You get zoned in on what you're doing and you forget, oh, this isn't the final piece. I can go back, do touch-ups and things later, and it's okay. This is looking great. I love the shade. It's so pretty. All right. Let's let that dry. Okay, so let's go to our pot for a minute while our background's drying, because we don't want to start putting our leaves on and stuff and then change it up. So my bottom part of my pot is going to be a dark blue, a navy color almost, but again, I am adding brown. Wow, you can see when I hold my plate up, all my paint runs. So hopefully your plate is laying down and you're not having that problem. All right, so I'm gonna take some brown. I'm gonna mix it with some dark blue here for my pot and some white to get this darker shade of a navy blue. But again, you're adding that brown. Okay, so I add brown to every color I do on this whole painting. All right, so I'm going to now paint the bottom part of my pot here. Fill that in. There we go. And you can reach down and paint the bottom of your canvas while you're at it. And this part of your pot, this blue that we have here, this phthalo blue, is a little bit transparent. So if you feel like you need 2 coats, just know that can definitely be the case, and that's totally normal. And you can come back once the paint's dry and add another coat to it. Sometimes I do. Just depends on how it lays on my canvas. I'm gonna try and not be too shaky here and curve out the pot on the sides and also get a nice line. Of course, you can tape this off if you're worried about it. I'm just using the very toe of my brush and following that line across as best I can, knowing it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. The painting, not a print, so I expect that there's going to be perfect lines. All the way to the edge there. Brush it out. Now let's do our edge. We use the toe a lot to do edges. Use the toe quite a bit. You can always come back to with your background color if you need to and outline your pot to clean up edges. That is always an option. I do that a lot if needed. All right, now let's do this side. Follow that line. Not bad for a shaky hand like mine. Okay. Add a little more light in the center of it. You can put a little bit of white on your brush and brush it in if you want to. I like having darker sides and a lighter center when I paint. A lot of times I'll brush in more white in the center. That looks pretty close to good, so I'm gonna leave that. Leave that alone. All right, now let's take our detail brush. I'm gonna switch now to a smaller brush. Looks like this, okay? It's my detail, my smallest brush. And we're gonna start our flowers because we actually do our flowers before we do our stems. So you do want your background to be dry. All right, so let's just make sure. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so you can see where we've laid out your flowers and where they're gonna go, right? So let's start first with our yellow flower. It's a good warm-up one. So I'm going to take some white here, mix it with some yellow, and obviously my paint is just running everywhere. So don't mind that. We're just going to have a messy palette, and that's okay. Now, of course, I'm adding a little bit of brown to my yellow. Okay. And you can add a touch of pink if you want to, too. I think it's kind of fun. Warms it up quite a bit. Makes it fun. Okay, now for this flower right here that we're going to do, we have our V shape. Okay, and the fun thing with these flowers is it's pretty much a one-stroke flower. So we're going to start with our V shape. Out here, you can go as big as you want. I press and pull down to the center. Okay, and press and pull down to the center. So I have my V shape on top of that stem. Then we're going to give ourselves 3 little fingers in the middle that are slightly taller. So come a little higher, and I have 1 there, 2, and 1 more, 3. There you go. There's your first flower. Not too difficult, right? Okay, now over here we have circles. So let's start with where it comes out here on our stem. And I'm just going to make myself a circle with my brush. Literally just painting a circle and then fill it in. Okay, that's where we're going to base a lot of our flowers on now. Now between the flower and the leaf, I have a smaller one, smaller circle here. We're just filling in that negative space with a little flower. Okay, we have 1 there. Then between the 2, we have another one over here. And these are flowers, not meant to be perfect. Okay, keep that in mind. They're not meant to be perfect. 1 there. Now, just up here a little bit, I added 1 just to fill the space. We're going to add 1 little flower up here. Just thought it looked pretty. Okay, 1 there. And then we have 1 up here next to our leaf, filling in this space as well. Gonna brush that in. Now remember, this is our first layer. You're going to see the background. It's okay. This is our first layer. Now let that sit. Let's rinse our brush. Nice work. Perfect. All right, now let's go and do our very top flower up here. Let that yellow dry. Do the yellow first because it does need a little more layering. But the blue, not so much. So we're going to go ahead now and get the shade of blue that we want there. I'm just going to add some white to my pot color. Already has brown and blue in it. I'm just adding some white to it until I get the shade that I like. And keep mixing until, yep, I like that shade. Okay, now we already have that V shape set up for you here along the bottom, so you can follow that around. Okay, and all we're doing here is we're going to come up, curve our brush, and give ourselves a petal. 1 there. I'm going to do the same over here. Come up, follow that outline. It can be taller, it can be shorter, totally up to you. Curve that edge, fill it in. Here we go. And then we have 1 coming right up the center of it from the petal, almost reaches the top of your canvas. And bring it around. Just like that. Curve it a little more. There we go. You can reshape it however much you need. And then we have 1 coming up here between the 2 of these. It's a little longer is what I did. And fill it in. Now this is all freehand, so it may look different every time you do it. That's what makes it so awesome. Okay, so So there you go. Now you have that flower done. Let's rinse our brush. And I'm going to switch now to what's called a number 6 round brush. Okay, it looks like this. It's rounded on the top. Okay, and this is to do these fun flowers that I love so much. We have to mix some color to get it. So first put it in some water. And then I'm going to mix this fun pink with some yellow. Okay, gives us a little bit of an orangish pink, more magenta looking. And then we're going to add a little bit of white to it to lighten it up. Now you get to decide if you want it more pink or if you want it to be a little more orange or peach. If you want it more orange and peach, just keep adding yellow to it. Mine's a little more pink, okay? Now that I have it mixed, this is our first layer and we have the outline ready for you. So what you're going to do is just point, press, and pull that brush towards the center. Okay, so you're just going to point, press, and pull. Just like that. Okay, we'll do another one. Point, press, and pull. A little bit higher, point, press, and pull. And then I have one centered. And we just keep filling the space. And you see I do different heights, different lengths, totally depends on you and the pressure that you put on that. Okay, so we're going to do one here. Point and press and pull right along that outline that you created. Point, press, go. And we're going to get a little higher on this one. Go on the other side, get a little higher on that side. And I keep working it in, just creating that smile shape. Pointing and pressing. There we go. So fun, right? Okay, we're going to do one over here now. And I'm just curving to the center. Point, press, and pull. Point. There we go. You can do some a little taller. There we go. One more just to fill in the space here. There you go. So cute, right? Now let's just let that dry for a minute. We've got our first layer of flowers on. Awesome. Okay, now we're going to go back over here to our yellow flowers because they should be pretty dry for you now. Okay, and I'm just going to put one more layer on my yellow flowers because you can see the background through them, right? That's to be expected. So we're just going to put one more layer on there. You can see how it covers it up a little bit better for us. There we go. If yours aren't quite dry yet, it's okay. Always go back to it in a minute, or you can pause the video. Just wait just a minute to go back. But mine is ready, so I'm going to go for it. Fill these in. I'm going to make sure that layer's on there and ready for us. Start adding some other little details. All right, all the way around. There we go. Looks good. Okay, let's let those dry a second. Rinsing my brush. Perfect. All right, so with our flowers here, giving them just a minute to dry. Just to make sure we're good. And our blue one up here, you should be okay with the layers. You may just want to make sure you have a good covering of it, but it should be. The blue covers so good, especially in a blue background. So it should be okay. All right, now with these flowers, let's add another layer to our pink flowers. I'm going to show you how we get that highlight in it. So I've got my color here, right? Mixing it up. Okay. Now to do the flowers, I dip on my brush like that. Oh, don't want blue in it. Dip the tip of my brush in there. Okay, and you're going to add a highlight to your flower by pressing that white in it. You see that? Okay, so you just dip that, get a little bit of white on there, and press, and you'll get that white highlight. Don't be too afraid of this, because if you feel like, oh, I have too much white on there, you can go back, because we're going to add one more layer in a minute and put a little more dark in it. Okay, this is your fun highlight for the flower. So just dip it right there, press, and make sure you keep that pink on your brush when you're doing this. And you can overlap the petals. And some of them I won't get enough white on, and I'll just have to redip that. That happens too, okay? But we'll overlap the petals in just a minute. Right now you're just getting the light on each one. So dip that, keep going. So pretty though, once you start to see those highlights in your flower. Isn't it pretty? I love it so much. Okay, so now that you have your highlights naturally on those flowers, I'm gonna let it sit for a minute, and we're gonna start working on our leaves. And we can go back and add lowlights to the flowers if we need to give it a little more dimension. You can add more dark on a petal or whatever you need to make it feel better. So I'm going to grab my detail brush now. We're going to start mixing our green for our leaf. And again, you get to decide what shade you want this. That's why you get to mix it. So I'm going to take some yellow here over to my green, and we're going to start mixing yellow and green together. Then I'm going to add some brown to that green and white. Quite a bit of white because I really want to lighten it up, and it helps that green go on really nice. Okay, now I want more white because we're going to do two different tones of green. We have a lighter green, and then we have a darker green. Okay, we're going to start with the lighter. Just trying to decide if I like it. I think I want a little more brown in it. So you can see, just mixing till I like the shade. Okay, now let's start with our stems. So I'm going to start from the pot and work my way up to each of my leaves. All right, so here's our first one. It's going to come up through the center of these leaves. And remember, depending on how hard you press with your brush, your stems could be thick, they could be thin. They're all great, just depending on how you press down. So don't stress it too much. Okay, this is going to come through that leaf. Now I'm going to go ahead and just paint it so you can see. Okay, you can go right through the leaf so you can see where you're going. Then I have this stem coming up, that one, and then it breaks off and goes to the other flower, just like that. All right, now we're going to do our next stem, which is our flower up here. I don't want to accidentally paint over my flower, so I'm kind of starting up rather than from the pot on this one. You do what works for you. You can see that stem got big. That's all right. Just depends on how we press on it. Okay, and then this one comes right through the leaf and down. Go. If you need to paint through your leaves so you can get that stem where it needs to be, go for it. It's okay. Okay, we have one more here, and it's going to come down through this leaf as well. Love it. And then we have this stem over here. Need a little bit more green on that brush. I'm so shaky today. The struggle. There we go. All right, and then we have this one here. Okay. And our stems are going to change a little bit as we put different shades on there. So just remember that. You put darker shades on and lighter shade, so they'll change a little bit as we go. Okay, did I get all of them on there? I think I did. Just making sure. It looks so good. Okay. Now as our flowers are drying, let's start putting our leaves on here. These are the lighter leaves. They match the stem right now. We'll put a darker shade on later. Okay, so let's start with the ones we've already outlined. That way it'll get this warmed up. But one thing to remember with leaves is you're creating a rainbow shape, like that, and then a smile to connect the rainbow. That's how we always teach our artists to remember how to paint a leaf. And then we just fill it in. Just like that. So if you ever lose a leaf, you can remember, I'm just connecting my smile to my rainbow. There we go. Fill it in. This one does kind of touch the flower, so be careful if your flower's still a little wet. We have this one here, kind of rainbow. And our smile. Go. Fill it in. A little more of a smile on this one, I think. All right. And we have these here. Up. And connect. You can obviously make these leaves bigger if you want to. Don't have to be the exact size we've given you. You can even add more leaves once you get the hang of this. They're kind of fun. Go. Now we have our bigger ones over here. They really draw attention to themselves, right in the center. Got our rainbow shape, and I'm going to connect it with that smile and then fill it in. Long strokes. Make sure we don't have any thick paint on there. I'll do our other one. On the other side, we're going to fill it in. Here we go. Brush it in. Looking good, guys. Hope you're having fun with these leaves. They are one of my favorite things to paint. It's so relaxing. All right, now we have a couple here. We're going to do all the way down our flower. Rainbow shape. Okay, and we have one here. These all go into the V shape off of each other. So if you've lost one or you're missing one, just remember it's like a V shape right off of each other. So you can just connect another one by doing your rainbow and your smile. One more here. That'll get you all warmed up for these smaller leaves we're going to do in just a minute. That one got kind of big. That's okay. We're rolling with it. Looks good anyway. All right. Okay, so now let's do our smaller ones. I'm going to add a little more green for these. I just want to darken them up a little bit, because we're going to start our darker shade now. I'm going to darken that up for my smaller leaves. Okay, and now that you know where all the stems are, you can start to add a little more shading to your painting. Okay, so for my darker leaves up here, I'm going to just go over the stem with a darker shade of green. And I also add the darker shade to the center, and I'll do that in just a minute. Let's do our teardrop leaves. I call them teardrops because you're just curving a hook shape and connecting a hook to the other side. Kind of looks like a teardrop, and we're filling it in. And I start with the top. That's going to lay the pattern for the rest of them. You can go as big as you want here. Just fill it in, okay? And now we're going to add 1, 2 on each side. So you can space those out however you want. Just doing our teardrop shape. Got one there. And you can stack them on each other, or you can do them kind of in a staircase style, stepping all the way up on the leaves. Or you can do something like this where they come together. So I'll do my teardrop shape like that, and then I'll connect one to it. See that? So you can decide how you want to do those. So simple though. All right. And we have the same leaves here on top of this one. I'm going to do my teardrop shape here. Right on top. Then I have 2 more just popping up next to that leaf. Curving it around, filling it in, just like that. All right, perfect. So with this stem, I just want to darken it up. So it kind of matches those leaves that we just did. You might need another layer on those leaves. That's okay. Okay, now let's go over here to this last one. And the reason we haven't put the flower petals on is because you have to create the stems for them. So we have one coming here. It's just curving. And one here, almost looks like a pitchfork. This one just comes a little lower. Okay. And again, this one's a little darker, so I'm just going to brush all the way down to finish it. And then we're going to add those leaves to it. And I just did the V-shaped leaf on these. So we're going to come up, creating a V in our leaf pattern. This one comes right behind this flower, so we don't have to finish it up. It's just kind of giving the illusion that it's there. But you can kind of see how it has that V with the way it connects, right? All the way around the top. You can make it as big as you want. It's okay. Just filling in that space. It's a wider leaf. Looks so good. All right, now just make sure we have our enough layers on here. We get to do some fun design work on our leaves. My favorite part. I love doing it. Just making sure these have a good layer. You might need one more on them. You can just double check and make sure that they're obviously darker than the rest, just to add the different tones in your leaves. go. Looks pretty good to me. Love it. Okay, so this flower, this blue flower should be dry for you. And if it is up top, you can go ahead and add the base to it with this darker shade of green. All you're gonna do is follow along the bottom of the flower and create your V to hold your flower. Just like that, just holding it. And then between each petal, you're gonna create another line. One there, one here. And those are your V shapes as well, just to hold your flower in place. So simple, yet it looks amazing, right? Love it so much. Okay. And these here, if it's all dry, all you're gonna do is add an upside down triangle shape to hold your flowers. And you'll add another layer after you add your flowers if needed. So don't worry too much. You're just going to create your little upside down triangle for the base. Perfect. All right. Looks so good. Okay, I want you to just look at your yellow flowers and make sure before you add the base to those that they look the way you want. I'm going to add a little bit of a darker yellow with some brown mixed with it and some pink. A little darker than the yellow you already have on there. Okay, and I'm going to go along one edge of the flower. It's not going to be super noticeable, and that's okay. You don't necessarily need it to be. Just you can see it adds some shading. Okay, and then we're going to go over to our circle ones over here. Okay, I'm just mixing that pink and brown with the yellow. Okay, and we're going to give ourselves a smile right at the very top of our flower, and then go around the bottom part and fill it in. Makes it look like a little rosebud. So we're going to create a smile at the top. Fill it in along the bottom. Isn't that cute? So simple and yet adds so much to it. Create your smile. And fill it in on the bottom. You do want to make sure this part is obviously darker, right, than the rest, so it stands out. Do your smile at the top and paint the bottom. Fill it in. Do one more here. Smile and paint the bottom. So cute. I love it. I love it. All right, now those are done. Rinse your brush. Let's finish up our leaves and the base of our flowers. Okay. So obviously we need to use the lighter shade to finish up the base of our lighter flowers over here, or pinkish orange flowers. The base is going to be lighter. I also have this leaf here I need to fix, so I'm going to brush it around. There we go. Fix the paint on that one. Want to make sure your leaves are all filled in with a good layer so they're ready. Because they do, they dry slightly different. So you want to make sure your color is ready. Like it so much. Just filling it in. Making sure I have my layers on there. Isn't that pretty? I think it's pretty much there. You get to decide how many layers you need. After it dries, you can kind of look at it and decide if it needs more or not. Whoop. There we go. Just filling it in really quick, making sure I have enough filled in. And I do, it looks great. Okay, let's do the base of our flowers. They should all be dry, so we should be good to go. So for these flowers, you're just gonna start with a rainbow shape on the base of it, just like that, to hold it into place. And then you're gonna come down towards the stem in a triangle shape and fill it in. There you have it. Whoop. There you go. We'll do it there. We have one here, so we're gonna create our rainbow and our V shape. Try not to smear any wet paint, which can be very tricky, right? Okay, then we'll do this other flower here, create our rainbow, come down in a V on each side, or an upside down triangle, and then follow the stem down if you need to. Look how good! And it's so simple, right? Not hard to do. Okay, and if our yellow flower is all dry and ready, we can add the base to that one. This one has a little more lines to it. So you're going to come around each side of the bottom petal, create your V to hold it in place, come down to your stem. Okay, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 down the middle of each petal. And they're all different heights. So this one's a little taller, this one's a little shorter, just depending on what you like, what you prefer there. I did different heights because it just gives it a personality, you know? Makes it kind of fun. We have one more here. There we go. Look how cool. All right, your last thing you're gonna do on your leaf is just add the different colors. I can't get the bottom of this one. Don't know what the deal is. I think I'm shaky or something. But I can't. There we go. Just could not get it to smooth out for me. There we go. Okay. So now what we're going to do is add a darker shade of green just to our leaves. Okay. So last step before we do that. Top of our pot and you're done. So let's go ahead and make sure we have that darker shade of green that we use. And of course, add that brown to it. Okay. And it needs to match pretty closely to these leaves here. So I always take a little tester and let's just make sure. I think these are dry. Right? So you should be able to do your little flowers here on those. Yeah. Okay, so let's do those really quick. I think it's dry and ready for you. And they're the most simple flowers. You're going to love these. I just take a dark blue, the little brown, mix in that blue, and I take my detail brush, and you're just going to press your petals. So I create, again, a V shape. I'm just pressing my brush in a V shape, just like that. Isn't that cute? And then I add one in the center of some of them. Look, this is the most simple little flower petal. The center one, I just did a V and left it. It's not quite fully bloomed. And then on the last one, we'll do our V shape and then one in the center. Isn't that adorable? So simple. Let that dry. All right, let's go ahead and finish our leaves. So you're gonna add this darker shade of green, and I want it to obviously be darker so it stands out. Whoop. Lost it. Got it though. Okay, so I'm gonna start with our top leaf here in the corner. And you're just gonna come right up the center of that leaf, outline the bottom part, and fill it in. And isn't that a pretty way to shade it? So So simple. This one, same thing, right up the center and outline the bottom and then fill it in. And you have your simple shade. We'll do this bottom one here, right up the center. This is the one that's been a struggle for me, so let's hope I can finish it. He just has a mind of his own today. Perfect. All right, now let's do the center one over here. And I like to kind of swap it just to give it personality, make it kind of fun. So I'll do the bottom of this one and then I'll shadow the top of the other one. Just like that. Isn't that awesome? Okay, and we'll do these leaves next. Right up the center. And again, I'll swap it. So I'll do the top of this one down the center, outline the top, fill it in. Same with the other one, we'll just do the bottom part. And then the top. There we go. You just make sure these are filled in. Last one right here. Just have to add the lines to it. So what I like to do is go right up the center first. Just like that. I'll do the same on the other side. Right along the center. There we go. And now all you're gonna do is create a V all the way down. You can add as many as you want, depending on your style. Keep going. Perfect. Do the other side. A little bit harder for me to create the V going this direction. So I go back and forth on it. Perfect, just like that. Rinse your brush. It looks so good. I think we did it. We absolutely did it. One thing you can add if you want is a little line down the center of these leaves. It's an extra detail that you don't necessarily have to do, just if you want to. Adds a little more detail to your work. So it's just something you can add if you feel like it. But you know what? This looks so good. Wow. Love it. I'm gonna let it dry for a sec. Not touch it. Okay, and if you have any little things like I did here that you want to cover right up there, you can cover it up, no problem. Super easy fix. Okay, now I always leave this to the very end, the top of your pot. And you can choose your color. The reason I leave it is so you can brush your stems down and not worry about if it's getting all over your painted work. Okay, but I'm going to do it a dark blue with a lot of brown mixed in it. So it actually looks a lot darker than this part of your pot, the bottom part, because I'm adding that brown. You see how it changes the look of it a little bit? Okay. I really wanted it dark. And I am going to use my detail brush. It's very small, so I just go right along the top, right over my stems there. Just go as straight as you can. Not going to be perfect. All right. Got a little storm in the background. Okay, we're going to go across the bottom. Just filling it in, going as straight as I can. There it is. And then we square out the sides. on each side there. Okay, now I'm going to thicken it up here at the bottom. I always start small, because then you can change it if you need to. Make it bigger or smaller depending on your hand and what's happening. There we go. Ooh, hard to get a straight line. You can tape it if you want. I am so shaky today, so we're trying. We are trying our best. Okay. Sorry, our dogs are here to say hello. Okay. And there you have it, guys. You did it. Did a beautiful job. Just gonna go around, clean up anything I want to change. But I think it looks pretty good just the way it is. Any little touch-ups? Awesome. All right, look at that. You guys did it. Let's be sure to sign our name because we are pretty proud of ourselves right now, I think. At least I am. Right? Did a beautiful job. It's the perfect painting for spring and for display to show everyone what you did and that you are an artist. I'm going to sign my name here. Be sure to sign it with your initials, your name, a heart, a smile, whatever you feel like. And there you have it. Thanks for painting with us. We would love to see your work. So if you give us a hashtag at My Little Paintbrush, we can see it too. Hope you have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.